on an item, whether we feel pro or con on it. So first question I think we have is, what kind of format do you want with this? Are you comfortable with chapters? Do you want to divide it into sections? What kind of format do you want? Don't have to pick up a pen. You notice that some of them have sections, some of them just have sentences referring back to other places. Does it matter to you?
Yeah, we just go by section. Probably easier that way, isn't it?
Well, yeah, that's something different. My second question was, do we need a preamble? If you notice, I think it's Monmouth that has a preamble, Philomath has a preamble. We don't. Do you think it's a good idea or not?
I didn't.
I'm not real sure that it would be necessary. It wouldn't say anything other than the following is that outline of the charter of the city of Sweet Home, and it's pretty self-explanatory once you open it and start looking at it.
Anybody else? My thought on it was that it kind of set the tone. But that was, I particularly like Monmouth. I thought that it set the tone for the charter. That's another question we can answer. Okay, so what's your thoughts now on chapter 1?
I think what we have is, I think it's fine. You could go to a reading description, I believe it's Silverton, that had like a 3-page property description before they got into anything. Or you can just say what ours say, you know.
Just on that, we had the description in at one time.
Yeah, I think so.
That's one of the things that went away the last time, is we had a.
If we want this to be consumer friendly, citizen friendly, I think this probably describes it pretty well.
I think so.
I think so too. The only thing I had, it kind of contradicts, we have an oath of office on the next page. It says support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state. And here in the beginning, we only have Constitution, statutes, and common law of the state. I was thinking maybe that little support the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state should be there. I mean, I know it's a small little thing, but it kind of goes through the other sections also. When it says supporting the Constitution and laws of the United States and the state. Whereas here it doesn't state the Constitution, but that's the Constitution of Oregon as opposed to the Constitution of the United States. So I just thought the wording there should be the same as over here in the oath of office.
Any other thoughts on that?
Guess not.
Anything else in chapter 1? Chapter 2. I have some questions on this because it's been brought up that we look at having an elected mayor instead of elected by the council, but elected by the electorate. If you look, every single one of these cities, that's how they select their mayor.
I agree, because I read it should be
If
in
they're
there
not
somewhere.
selected by their council.
Right.
So I have that up there as a question because there are some things we would have to talk about, like how would that be done? Would that person be a member of the council? Would they have a vote? What would be their term limits, et cetera, for their term?
City I came from Florida, council had forget if it was 3 years or 4 years, the mayor had an extra year, so he would offset the, like what you guys do, you do 4 people and then you do 3 the next 2 years or whatever. And the mayor, he only voted when we needed to break a tie. You know, you have 7 people, counting the mayor right now, so 6 council people. If 4 people, you know, if everybody 3 and 3, he would have to vote just to break the tie. And it worked great in that city. And the people, you know, liked it. And also this past month, you know, since I am running for a council seat, I went door knocking. I knocked on over 2,000 doors, okay? I got out there 9 o'clock in the morning. Bob knows I knocked because I knocked at Bob's door when he was pulling out of his driveway. And I asked about, should we have a mayor that be voted? And the people, majority of the people that I knocked on their doors, they said, yeah, they would like to be able to vote for the mayor instead of council, you know, appointing him every 2 years.
Hey, you have some stickies in front of you, on the big green stickies. I think we should put pros and cons up here on this, because there's some things to think about on the, against that kind of thing. For instance, what if the mayor doesn't get along with the rest of the council?
Well, but you know,
I mean,
there's
that's,
more council people than the mayor.
Right.
And the council people can actually, you know, if they took a vote, they could dismiss the mayor.
Right.
Too, so, you know, it weighs both ways, you know, if they got enough council people, could they, I believe they can actually vote them
Oh,
out.
I wouldn't think it worked that way. What would be the point of having them elected by the people if they could be voted out by the council?
Yeah, as it says right now, the council can remove the mayor, but I don't think you could remove him if he was elected on his own.
Yeah,
it'd have to
Simply
be,
by a vote of the council.
I think it'd have to be a recall by the voters,
yeah,
wouldn't it?
yeah. Otherwise, there wouldn't be a purpose of having him in there.
Then you've got 4 people deciding
Yeah,
an issue that's already been decided by 4,000 or whatever.
right.
yeah.
This has been discussed before, and there are some good points to it, and there are some points that some people didn't like. They thought that people would run for mayor that had an axe to grind and could get elected having not served on any committees or council or anything. But that I don't think is a valid reason to not do it. But if we did it, I would certainly want him to be a voting member of the council. Albany has a situation now where the mayor is a non-voter except in case of ties. And I don't know if you take the Albany paper or not, but you can sure see lots of things throughout the year where they have problems with that.
Well, here in the mayor's duties, it already says he can vote.
Pardon?
Well, you
The
can
mayor's
change
duties
that.
says
I
he
mean,
can-
Yeah, you
these
could.
guys in here though have it both ways. Some of them have him vote and some of them have him don't.
Here
It's,
it says he may.
it's just kind of mixed match and everywhere in these cities that we looked at it here.
The big thing that I would think there is the thing that you brought up is that at least here, since I've been here, the mayor's been, of course, by the council. And whether they usually, it was one person, everybody got together or decided, or it was just sort of that way, it was one person. Sometimes you had 2 people wanting and there was a split and whatever. But the 2 people, even when there's the 2 people, it's always been, it hasn't been the novice people. It's always been somebody that's been on there for 6 or longer years or 4 years or whatever. And why I say that is because if you've been on there that long, you know how things work. If you take somebody from the street and just say, you're gonna be mayor, you're gonna have to teach them for 2 years what goes on and how you do things and that sort of thing and how things work, just like any new job. That'd be the only thing, that'd be the big thing that I would think of. I mean, from our history, at least since I've been here, it's been an experienced councilman who's been elected mayor.
Well, here, it's basically the council people just appoint, they take a vote. It's not like the mayor is experienced, he's an experienced council person. It's not like the voters voted the mayor in. They voted him as a council person, him or she.
But what I'm saying is the person that has been mayor here for years and years has been an experienced council member before they were before they were made mayor. They've been in on committees, they've been in on all the issues that the city's involved with before they step into the top place.
I go back to the 70s in all of this. I guess I'm probably older than dirt, but the concept kind of has always been that first you get involved in committees, budget committee or something that interests you, then you run for council, then you see, is this really what I want to do? And then before you know it, 20 years have passed and you're still doing it. But I remember when I was first elected mayor by the council, there, I think, had been some problems within the council. Prior to that, I was not aware of it, but Bob Harbaugh, God rest his soul, was the mayor at the time. I ended up running against him because I was nominated and then Bob nominated himself. But then I was elected by a 6-1 vote. That's neither here nor there, but I think experience does matter, and at least knowing what the workings of the city are, not necessarily your background or anything like that, but you can get bogged down in meetings real easy if you don't have someone that at least has been around for a little while.
So Robert, if we do this, if we say the mayor would be elected at large, can we have qualifications for the mayor?
I'd have to look it up, but I don't think that there would be a reason not to.
I don't think you can do that.
No, because big cities, Portland, look at
Yeah.
the two mayors that are running.
Yeah.
One's a school teacher, business owner. She didn't have any experience, basically, so yeah,
I'm not saying they do, I'm just not saying,
Well,
I'm just saying I don't know if there's something specifically that would.
Yeah.
would say that you couldn't.
Brandon, political, anyone.
I'm gonna interrupt for just a second, just to let you know that Mr. McQuarrie is on the line, so he can hear and participate.
Oh, so I should refer to Tim
If you need to, yeah, but I think you can hear us, right, Tim?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
The other thing, like you brought up, the mayor, in some of these, you only have to be a citizen for 6 months.
Yeah.
And then some of them are a
More
year.
than that.
I'm not saying that smart people don't come in every 6 months, but it's hard to see somebody that's only been here 6 months be your mayor.
Well, from my standpoint, I think that the process we have right now is pretty doggone good. Have I disagreed with our mayors? Absolutely. But I think that they are actually 100% on the same page as you, Dave, is that you need to have some experience. And it's the same thing with people that run for council, for me, that never show up to a council meeting. And that's bothersome to me. And they should be on a committee, just like you say, Dave, to get used to, especially the budget committee. It's hard to figure out until you get on it. And I think it's very important for somebody with some experience to be sitting in that chair. And so.
It's hard to figure the budget out after you've been on it for 10 years.
That's right. That's exactly right. Yeah, it's pretty rude awakening for me especially, because I'm not, but I think that the process we have right now is the way we should go. Because I used to be exactly the opposite. And then I've talked to different people and I don't think it's a good idea to put it on the ballot. Because you could get somebody who has no experience, and that's.
I can live with either way, but the main thing that I would want would be that the mayor be a voting member of the council, not just in case of tie. But I think we've all seen council people that have come in, and I'm going to use a name because he turned out to be a real good councilman. Jim Beam, to me, is a good example. If Mr. Snyder might remember when Jim first came on, he had some problems with the police department because he had been on, and one of the things that he wanted to do was do some reorganizing there. He came in with a purpose that didn't work, but then Jim became a good council person. He got active in the traffic, he organized different things, and he did a good job. And you always knew he was there because he was the only one sitting up there with a suit and tie on.
Yeah, every time.
He took it very seriously and he worked at it. But you can come in with an agenda. I guess the point I'm trying to make is, and after you get there, see that, well, maybe I didn't really have what I thought I had to start with. And then you become a part of the team and a part of what makes the city work. There have been others that I wouldn't get into that have done the same thing, and they stayed there 2 years or 4 years and left. But it's, as you all know, that have had anything to do with it, it's not the easiest job in the world all the time.
No, it's not.
I had a council person tell me that I was nothing but a figurehead until 2 months later when we had riotous meeting almost wanting to lynch the police department when Gary David was here. And he came up to me after that one and said, I changed my mind, you know, so.
Well, Robert, would we need to, we list the qualifications in the charter if we did it?
Well, you can do that, or you can list them in an ordinance, or you at least look at the possibility of listing an ordinance in case you wanted to add or subtract since it's brand new. I know you guys all read these, but I did mark two places that I wanted to specifically say. When they talked about the model charter, they have it in here, and then in the appendixes or whatever, if you skipped over those, they did say a couple things. They said the model charter contains no provisions on a number of other subjects that may be covered as well or better by ordinance. Such subjects include council rules, personnel, procedures for local government, levying and collecting special assessments, commission committees. There are other avenues than sticking stuff in your charter. And they did say when they were doing their charter here, they said subjects and procedures covered by state statute are generally no longer included in charters. The model charter also eliminates provisions better left to adoption by ordinance. The point of it is the people that are doing the model charter, you put in there stuff that you basically, this is the way we want it, we don't want it to change. If it's got change involved or you're thinking about it or it's moving on you, you're probably better off sticking it in an ordinance so that you can change it, update it, and get it the way you want it, particularly before you stick it in charter, because that takes a public vote and they may vote it in or out. So
How do we get from here to bring it to the council to bring it to an ordinance? So, I mean, we can discuss it here all day long, but we have to still take it to the council to be accepted as an ordinance.
correct,
right?
It's all got a procedure to it.
Right, so we have
It's just
to,
if you
anything
stick
that we
it,
have,
it's just if you stick it in the charter specifically and have it go out and be voted on, then the charter, you cannot change the charter unless you do that again about going out and getting voted on. You
right,
can put a lot of things in ordinance and put them in there, discuss them, go through 3 readings or how many readings you guys decide. It goes through a process, it sits there, you can use it, you can, and then if it doesn't work, you can change it. Or you can make it better, or whatever. But if you put it in the charter, you're pretty well stuck with exactly what you said until you change the charter, and that takes a public vote.
Well, you know, but some of the people told me when I was walking, talking, they says, you know, it doesn't matter if council wants something, someone said that council, they feel some people up on council is for themselves, and I try to explain, no, they're doing a job for the city. But like some of them said, if they came in front of council and asked to have something passed, well, it's up to the council to approve it. So they said, well, I guess we would just go and get a amount of signatures to get that put on the ballot.
Mhm.
And in Sweet Home, 9,000 people, what do you gotta get, 10% of
I don't know.
signatures or something like that? 900 signatures to be able to get that on a voting ballot. So one way or another, you wanna kind of do things what you think the people want to, because if you upset them, they're gonna go over your head one way or another and get the voters to vote for it.
They can do that, yes.
Correct.
Well,
So,
already
Tim-
said it a few times.
Tim, do you have anything about this that you would like to say?
Really, Diane, or Counselor, David will remember that we touched on a lot of these things the last time that we reviewed the charter, and we arrived at some of the same conclusions that you're talking about right now. So I have nothing to add to the discussion you've got going.
What would be your personal opinion?
Well, personal opinion, I think that what we have works. And I think that's the question in front of all of us is something we're doing not working in our charter and needs to be looked at and changed. But this particular one, I don't think needs to be changed because I believe it's working.
I would agree with that, Diane, in the fact that Dave's been here on this stuff and in this stuff a lot longer than I have, obviously, but for me, it doesn't seem like it's failing. I mean, we haven't had any mayor kicked out because of it. And we don't agree on that. We've had a couple of times where different people ran and whoever it was got picked. And it just doesn't seem to me like this is something that I thought about a long time ago and I changed my mind. So I think the process we have is legit, and I think it's, I don't see any reason to change that part in this charter.
Well, do you think of any other parts changes with an ordinance?
What was that?
Do you have any reason to change it with an ordinance?
I think that would be a mistake to do it that way. If something as important as this, where you're changing a major thing in the charter, you need to change it by a vote of the people, not by an ordinance. I don't think that
Yeah, if
that's
you're gonna, I
something
mean,
you want to touch with an ordinance.
that I would say would be in your charter, because you don't want it changing every time somebody takes the
Well, now,
deal.
that, if you had it in ordinance form, that could happen.
Right, that's what I mean.
No, it-
You'd want it set in your charter.
I'm not talking about the election, I'm talking about qualifications.
I don't know that you could set qualifications.
I can see why you can't,
I think that would be kind of
just like,
discrimination or something, like, look at, I'm just gonna throw out Donald Trump.
That's
He
would
had
be
no,
my
he
example.
had no qualification, he ran businesses, and like most politicians say, if you're gonna run for an office, you run it like a business, and basically, being a counselor, you're running it as a business for the city. So basically, he has no qualification, and he won by the people.
but he's a businessman and the government is a business.
Basically, the city of Sweet Home is a business as well.
Correct. So the qualifications, so let me see, if you're a dairy farmer and you never came here before, you can come in here and,
Well,
Become a counselor?
it's a business. Well, he ran a business, how he ran his property. So you gotta think of some of the like,
that's a problem, not a,
stuff that he did in his life. That
that's
would
a whole
kind of,
different ballgame.
Well, don't expect me to agree with you that he's done as good a job in the government as he did in the business world, because that has not happened, in my opinion. But,
So let's get back to the issue.
yeah.
So we have two sides to this. It does seem to be working, as Tim said, and Dave said. But then we do have the people apparently, who would like to elect the mayor. But there are some questions of how that would go. I think what maybe what would help us, if we think about the fact that this charter, it costs $5,000 for an election to change the charter. So you don't want to do it every 2 years. You want to do it and you want it to be lasting. So what would this look like 15 years from now? Let's just say, since it was really 2012, it was looked at again, but 2005 was the last major revision. So that's 15 years. So if we kept it the way it is now, what would it look like 15 years from now when Sweet Home's doubled its population?
Well, we might have 15 counselors.
No.
It's a jab, by the way. That's a good question. Where would we be? We might be 25,000 in 2 years, whatever. I don't think it'd be that. And I think if we're gonna change something in this charter, it has to say something, and it has to be something that wouldn't upset the whole process, I think, and it's a little bit difficult for me to want, because I do believe that it's working, I do. And
But you gotta think of what the people out there are also thinking, is it working for them? You know, and I'm not saying it doesn't work, because I see it work the way you guys got it, but I'm just saying what I heard knocking at 2,000 doors, 4,000 people. They said they would like to have, their vote, that they got to vote the mayor in. Have you guys ever sent out questionnaires? You know, since I've only lived here almost 3 years, have you ever sent out a questionnaire to the community and asked them, we're thinking this way, what do you, yes or no? Would you like to be able to vote for the mayor, or do you like it the way it is now?
Well, since these are public meetings and people can listen.
And a lot of people don't listen, well, it depends on if they have a computer, you know, or
Well,
access.
But I'm
to-
saying that there is place for public input on this.
Because I come from a town like this, the Tellensdale, that's a free newspaper. The town that I came from, 13,000 people, they call it the Golf Court Gazette. It was a free newspaper. At least once a month, they would list all the different meetings that the council was going to have, and then they would also, if they had a question, they'd put it in there. So it was accessible for everybody in that town, so nobody could say, I didn't have a phone, I didn't have a computer. At least they knew exactly it was being publicized. People could go to the store and pick it up and be able, you know, once a month. You know, sure, it costs the city money to run that, but it was to keep the community informed.
You may also, we've done it in the past on different questions that, like, if you wanted, you could, as part of the deal, you could do a survey. The city can put out a survey and get results back on whether people want it or don't want it. And you could put in there, you know, some, other than just a, do you want one or don't you want one? You might do it like the voter's pamphlet is done, you know, here's the pros and here's the cons, little blurbs or something on what people think or what, you know, some of the issues are before you decide which way you're gonna jump.
And we have an option of doing that. We can put something in the water bill that they send out every month and give them a couple months or whatever it is takes to get it and have them bring that back to you. But I'd almost be willing to bet that the vast majority of those folks will not read it or even just throw it away.
But putting it on the water bill, it still won't contact every person in Sweet Home. People that rent apartments, renting mobile homes, they don't pay for water. So it's the landlord that gets that water bill.
The vast majority of them do. The vast majority. Some landlords may pay it, but the vast majority will get that.
So, if I may, so is the consensus of the council that we should, of the committee, that we should have a survey on this and let the staff deal with how that would work? Is that a consensus on this issue?
I like it. I just feel like then maybe the people in Sweet Home feel like they were involved in it a little bit, you know. We might be surprised if they come back and say, no, keep it the way it is. But, you know, I'm just saying that the amount of people that I talked to this month, they were in favor of it.
Dave, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say that if I had $1 for every meeting that I've attended or ran where not a single citizen showed up, I could go on a couple of my gambling trips. If they're interested, you would hear from them.
Right.
If they're not interested and things are going okay, you won't hear from them. We used to have a guy that came to every council meeting, just regular as clockwork, and I can't think of his name right now. And he stopped coming, and I met him on the street and asked him where he'd been. He said, well, things are going okay, there's no reason for me to come. And that's kind of the way people are. If you have an issue, if your ox is being gored, you're gonna show up. If it's not, you're not. You'll hear about it on election day, you know, but people just do not want to get involved. And it's one of the biggest problems in any kind of government, not getting people involved. They just won't do it.
Yeah, and we have to remember that this is Sweet Home, okay? Our people, you're right, when we have the two meetings that I've been in that were the packed in our council was marijuana, and we had a city manager replaced.
Yeah.
Before we got the replacement there. That's when we had the most people.
Yeah.
And that's as big as meeting as I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And the people that have an issue come in and talk about it. And I don't have a problem with that at all. But I have never heard of anyone come in here and say that we're not doing the proper procedure in the council to get the mayor in the position. And that may be wrong. It could be. I'm not saying it's not right or wrong. But if there was a big issue, there'd be 1,000 of them in this room.
But
Mike,
I was just gonna say that maybe it's not necessarily on their radar, or maybe people don't realize that they have the opportunity here to actually have a say in what happens on this charter. And so maybe a survey asking the question would at least let us know if people were interested. If we don't get any response, then it's like they said, okay, you know?
Yeah.
oh, that's a good idea. The one time, the other big meeting we had was when we raised the water rates.
Yes, we had, that was it.
When we raised the water rates, everybody came. Because all of a sudden, they all got the notice, and they showed up, and that was a big thing. So if you put out notices to them, they'll get it. I mean, they got it about the water bill, that's for sure.
Because some of the people said, why should I come to council meetings? My, one individual is not going to affect the council on an issue. I said, well, maybe just one isn't, but then tell your friends, tell your family. Pack the council chambers, then they'll listen. I said, but you come as one? I just know from past experience as well, that one, sometimes I think, well, it's only him or her that has an issue. It's not the majority of the community. But if you get 100 people here from the community, then you sit back and go, oh, maybe we should step back a little bit and let's think about this issue.
That's the way most people are.
Would it be difficult to get a
I
survey?
can't change it.
Yeah, right.
It's just the way they are. I mean, they just go,
Sorry.
Would it be difficult to get a survey in some form, online or?
Online is easy. Yeah, way easy. Other methods are more expensive and more difficult. So, I mean, you can do it. In what I've done in the past in other communities has been paper copies going out with utility bills and an online questionnaire, doing both. But you may still miss some people. Chances are you'll get the majority. But I mean, so it's possible that you can do your own, and then of course, if you want to spend the money, there are companies you can hire that'll do a really good job and reach
We don't
people.
want to spend money.
But that's pretty pricey.
Yeah.
But I think a paper copy, Brandon, I don't know what the cost of the inserts are in our bills. but we can do it, right?
Yeah, we can do it. I don't remember off the top of my head what we spent recently on inserts. They're not terribly expensive.
I mean, we're talking like, what, 25 cents each bill or
Probably.
some ish?
Well, like the sell and tell, even depending on how big the questions are, an ad like this was $20-some, and they had a buy one, get one. Basically, or I'm sorry, not a buy one, get one half off on the next ad. So if you did it in the sell and tell, and sure, the city has to pay for it, but $20, if it only costs you $20 or $30 to
yeah.
reach 7,000.
So that's, I mean, yeah, we can advertise a survey, yes. But putting it in the paper isn't gonna get you, I mean, then people are just gonna know you wanna know. They may not know exactly how they're supposed to tell you. So
Mail it
you
back.
advertise, hey, pick up one here at City Hall, or go online to our website and fill it out there, or look for it in your utility bill. I mean, that certainly can help to do something like that at the same time. But yeah, it's not a huge expense to get that in the paper.
Question is how can they respond? And that's, how do we get the information back from them? That's the hard part.
And you would, it's gonna take effort on their part no matter what.
Sure.
And so what you're gonna advertise is basically say, this is what we wanna hear from you on a number of questions. Pick up a paper copy at City Hall, or at the library, or at the Chamber of Commerce, or go to the city website and fill out the form that we've got there, and do one of those things. That's really how we would wanna collect that information.
Yeah, and how many people read the tell and sell? I have no idea. I don't read one unless I get it in the mail, and they don't send them in the mail.
No, you don't get that in the mail.
I do, I read.
I know,
it
but
every
how many
week.
people read it? How many people see it?
So,
Well, unless you have a garage sale or something, people.
I do, I just read it every day.
It depends on which
Let's-
demographic you're trying to
let's
reach.
hold this particular question. I've put survey public up there, because there may be other questions as we go through the charter that we would want to include on a survey. Is that what I heard you say, Claire?
I wouldn't recommend doing it if you only want one question
Right,
answered.
right,
But yeah, you'd want to do multiple questions on the
Okay.
same one.
okay. I know that one of the questions I had on the chapter 2 was that, I think we should state that it's a council mayor form of government. We don't state that anywhere in here, and I think that's important.
You mean council manager?
What?
The form of government we have?
That's what I have, council manager.
Oh, okay, I was gonna say, because we,
Yeah, council manager form of government, we need to say that. Also, Dave, you and I were talking about the number, why we don't have 4 people elected we set a 4-year term thing. I figured out why that is.
Okay.
Because one election, we would have 4, and the other election, we would have 3.
Mhm.
So by doing the 2-year thing, we have 4 and 4, so that makes sense to me now.
When
that
you
I
do it on
figured
the
out.
second one, do they also have a 2-year term as well? Like, after this election, and then when, in 2 years, if you do, with only the 3, would there still be another 2-year, for the 4th person if you did it that way?
Yeah, there are four being elected now. One, like Courtney's, only served 2 years. So the 4th person that is elected on this election will only serve 2 years and then have to run again. And then 3 of us will run in 2 more years, so there'll be 4. Right?
So every election, the 4th
Every
one-
election, there's a majority that runs. Also, I noticed in the second paragraph or third paragraph, it talks about a chairperson. I guess that's all right. I reworded that sentence just to say a mayor who shall serve for a
Under
term.
which section is it?
I'm on the bottom of the first page.
So you changed chairperson to what?
I just said the council shall elect from its membership a mayor who shall serve for a term of 2 years. Just because it's wordy the way it is, otherwise I'm a word.
I think the idea was chairperson, then you know who they're supposed to, they're the ones chairperson is the one who's gonna conduct the meeting.
Okay,
I mean, that's the idea.
okay.
I don't know if it's necessary, but that's how it is.
Were there any other sections in chapter 2 or section 2 that anybody wanted to change?
I got one question on section 4 in,
We're not on section 4 yet.
yeah, with the city attorney.
Oh, city attorney,
And
okay.
I want to know, Robert, why don't we have a contract with you?
Because I was here before the contract.
Well, apparently we've never had one.
No, I haven't.
Why don't we have one?
My father-in-law was here before that, and he never had one. When I came on, I never had one. I just here as in, I do everything, basically, most things they send to me. I'm at will. I'm the only employee, really at will.
Well, the judge is good.
Judges, but it isn't that you couldn't, we just never have.
Yeah,
It's just that I'm at will if council decides
I
I'm not
understand.
there,
that.
I'm
I
gone.
understand that.
There's no.
But do other cities have them?
What?
Do
Oh,
I-
I'm sure they do.
Yeah,
I'm sure they do.
okay.
It's just been carried over and I've just been here.
Well, I'd like to see that change so we do have a contract with.
Well, that wouldn't be done, that wouldn't have anything to do with your,
That would be an ordinance.
that'd just be your
Okay, all
administration.
right, we'll bring that up later.
Yeah, I read 2 other cities and they don't have any contracts with their lawyers. There's 2 other, I can't remember whether it was Silverton or who I read that they don't have a contract with their lawyers.
No, at least it's not in a charter.
Right, it wouldn't be in the charter, it would be in your own
Okay.
policy.
All right.
Right.
I just was concerned, I mean, not concerned, but I just wondered why.
I did have a question in section 5 where it says that the city manager shall appoint a treasurer.
That's
Treasurer.
finance director,
That's correct.
basically is what it is.
Well, since we don't call him a treasurer, shouldn't we say finance director?
You certainly could and update it and say that's your update, but in 20 years, you probably won't call him a finance director. That's the problem. I mean,
Well, we
You-
wouldn't
you-
call him
you-
a treasurer either, probably.
Well, that may be, and your finance director may be updated, but it's, but you've updated, I guess you can update it, but
So,
probably in 20 years, it won't be the same name
Because
anymore.
years and years ago, they used to just call it treasurer.
Right, takes care of the money.
The city.
but okay, so my question is the term treasurer in our constitution that says we have to have a treasurer as a city?
Right, and that is
No,
the person who takes
I
care
know
of your.
that is, but what I was wondering if it could just say shall appoint officers and employees as the council deems necessary.
Oh, okay, gotcha.
So that's what I'm asking.
Right.
Does it have to specifically say that the city manager shall appoint a treasurer, a chief of police, and such others? Being specific with treasurer and chief of police and then not everybody else. So,
Well, at one time, we didn't have funding for the library. So there was no need to have a library director. So this would be one employee that when you get the money back, the council tells the city manager, find a library director and appoint her or him. So I think that would cover that.
right, but I don't understand why we need to be specific on treasurer and chief of police.
I don't think there's any legal thing that says you have to.
There isn't anything legal.
I wouldn't think so. I mean, it's just how you do it. I'm assuming it's in there because they think that treasurer or finance director and chief of police are important enough that we want you, what this is telling me is city manager, we expect you to have a chief of police and we expect you to have a treasurer.
Not
The
just
other
expect.
officers are sort of whatever you want, but we expect you to have these two.
Okay.
This basically is saying those two are mandated.
Right.
That you have to have them no matter what. Other officers are up to administration and the council
Right.
deciding that it's necessary.
Right,
Whichever deems necessary.
right. I mean, that's the difference because it says it shall appoint.
Right,
Right.
So you've got to have that position filled and those are the two that they expect are important ones
To run the city.
to run the city.
I have a question for Robert.
So are we comfortable with the word treasurer?
If we're gonna change things, this would be one that would be pretty simple to change at the same time, if we decided to do that. I don't know what.
Yeah, but it has to be on a ballot to change it, is
Yes.
the only thing.
Yes,
And I don't think it's a big enough issue
Or you-
to
I
put
think
on a
most,
ballot.
I think most people, when they think of treasurer, they would definitely think of Brandon.
Right,
Yeah,
Finance,
I do
the
too.
person that takes care of the financing for
Right.
the city.
You could certainly just have a list of little housekeeping items like this that you change if you have something else major enough to warrant putting
Yeah,
this out to
Yeah.
ballot.
When we tried to clean it all up, as Mr. Snyder will remember, we had quite a few of those, you know, it just,
Well, I guess that's what I'm asking. Do you want to label it as one of those cleanup things?
well, if, I can label that if you want, if we end up putting anything on the ballot at all. But if that's the only thing you're gonna put on, then I don't think it's necessary.
No, I agree with you. I agree with you. But I'm expecting this is gonna have a little bit more than that. So is there a consensus? Do we want to keep the word treasurer or do you want to change
I
it?
like it.
I like it.
I'm
I don't think
sorry.
it's necessary to change it.
yeah, I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have one question before I go any farther. Maybe, who hires I've read some numerous things about the municipal judge. So who in our town hires the municipal judge?
the council.
Council.
So you've hired, the council has hired the judge.
Correct.
A long time ago.
Oh, I was gonna say it, because I've
I
never,
don't know how long he's been on, but it's been a while.
it's been a while, because I've been here 20 years.
It's
and
been
the
there
same
for as
guy.
long as I've been on the council.
How long's that?
I think 8 years.
Yeah, I think it's about 10 years.
Yeah.
Yeah, we've had different judges over the years, I know.
That was my question.
Okay, any other questions on chapter 2? Okay, let's go to chapter 3.
Now here we have a qualification. You have to at least, the city at least 1 year may be nominated. You have to be in the city for 1 year.
Right,
So there we have a qualification.
right.
Some of the cities had 6 months, but we've had the 1 year for a long time.
Right.
I can't remember, does your form also say an age limit? You know, I don't think you'd
I
want
think
16.
you've got to be an elector. You've got to be.
Yeah, you have- it says
you've got to be
you have to be
elected,
able to
so
vote.
you
Be able to
gotta
vote,
be-
okay,
yeah.
so you have to be at
And I
least
think that's
18.
18.
Okay, okay,
You've got to be elected.
I don't remember where that is, but I saw it somewhere, I think.
okay. I
Yeah, it
just want to
says
make sure we don't get a
qualified
16 or
elector.
14-year-old up
Yeah,
there.
no,
Oh, that's
you
happening.
got to be able to vote.
Okay.
Any other questions on that one?
Yep.
Okay, let's look at chapter 4.
I had nothing in this section.
No, me either.
The only thing that I have under that is maybe a comment, is that sometimes the council takes too long to get after counselors that don't attend council meetings. If you make it a habit of not showing up, they need a talking to, and if they're not gonna perform their duties, then they need to be ousted and hold an election.
I agree with that.
Well, doesn't it say somewhere though, Dave, that if you miss 2
Well, Greg said 3. The other day when I asked when we had all the candidates here, and I asked Greg.
I want clarification on that, because I think somewhere it said 2.
Well,
But that might be 2 consecutive ones, I don't know, but they have to be
60
excused.
days.
Pardon?
I mean, what it is now, you can change it to whatever you want. Right now, it's 60 days. Be absent from meetings of the council for 60
yeah, I see
days
that.
without consent.
That's a lot.
That's 4 meetings.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Oh, okay, super.
that's way a lot.
Yeah, but that's still too much, I think.
Well, yeah, you already lost what's going on.
Yeah.
Unless you, of course, you
That's
I think
4, is that 4 in a row of any kind or 4 unexcused absences?
Without the consent.
Without the
of
That's
council.
consent, okay.
I think it should be
So-
30 days.
Well-
So if you have excused that, if you have, if your excuse is accepted by the rest of the council, you're fine.
Right. Well, if somebody gets sick and they can't make it, that's one thing.
Or vacation, you got an excuse,
Well-
most of the time.
Hopefully vacations don't last 60 weeks.
No, well, no,
But-
but it would,
but-
it could be on one of the meetings.
So anything about, that's vacancies, is there anything about how vacancies will be filled that you want to change?
Well, I don't think we need to change it. I just think the council needs to be more aware. Or the mayors need to be more aware that they need to keep a control of the council a little bit better. If we don't have people attending meetings, then they don't need to be up there.
Yeah, there was.
Well, one thing they have done, not recently, but if it's in the last few years, is if somebody is not there, they have a vote on it right there.
Whether it's excused or
Yeah,
not?
yeah, they have a vote on it right there.
But the vote is to accept the excuse.
Well, either that or not.
Or not.
Or
yes.
not. I mean, it's usually that way, but it could be. What I'm saying is they've come up with a way of at least tagging it right there
Yeah.
and getting a decision. Is it excused or isn't it excused? If it isn't, then it starts your 60 days.
Yeah,
Well, and like, being a taxpayer, if somebody was gone for right at 60 days or 59 days, that person, to me as a taxpayer, then he shouldn't got 2 months checks for not, if we put that person up there, why should that person get paid for not doing a duty for that pay?
It's an interesting question.
Well,
no, the amount that we pay councilors and mayors, that really is not an issue, I don't think. I spend more money on buying coffee than ever.
well, and especially,
From
well, yeah.
being an office,
Not a lot of pay, but
Yeah.
still, it's like, you would think, some people would think that, like, oh, that person's missed
Well, I
59
think,
days, but we still give them a paycheck, even though, $75 is gas money.
I think it is better than it was at one time. And because I have noticed in the council reports and meeting minutes and stuff that there is discussion of whether or not to excuse. And we didn't used to do that.
and it's a very simple process.
Yeah.
You either call the mayor, or you call the city manager. And if I totally disagree with what you just said, because if you consider the amount of time that it takes to do your council stuff, it's a very small amount of money over a year. It's a very small amount of money, and they should show up, I'm not saying that.
But you do vote for your pay. City I came from, council people made $1,000 a month. So you do
Yeah, write that down somewhere.
For 4,000 more people in the city that I came from than what you guys, but you guys, like Ray told me, you guys were the ones that voted for your pay, not that you guys can't up your pay. And your mayor does make it, what, $10 more than, and that was like, they gave him an extra $100 or $200 in the town I came from, because the mayor had a little bit more responsibility. But, yeah, you can't argue about the pay that you get, because you're the one that voted for that pay.
I didn't vote for that, but my personal opinion is if I was here for the money, I wouldn't be here.
Right.
Oh, yeah, I'm not in it for wild time,
Yeah, but you, what we get paid and the amount of time that we put in, it's like a football coach. He gets $1 an hour, something like that. And I whined and moaned Brandon many times about raising our pay and joking, because I don't need the money. That's not why I'm here. And if you're here for the money, then you're not here for the right reasons. And I'm not saying that's what you're saying, but
not at all.
yeah, so.
You guys are lucky that you do get paid, because Paisley they don't get no pay.
That's the thing I don't like about this. Don't put us in the same category as any other city.
Well, I'm not trying to, but I'm just giving some examples.
The fire department, we get paid $12 a call. Nobody else in the state of Oregon does that. And that's because the city of Sweet Home was very, very nice to us about doing that. But when you consider the amount of time that I have to spend to keep my training up in the fire district is unbelievable. And I am so blessed in that. And
Okay,
I use
let's,
that. So anyway, okay.
anyway, let's, under manner in which vacancies shall be filled, there is a question on this, and then when we talk about pro tem
Yeah.
issues, on the word absence, as defining what that word absence means. It says during, the last sentence there on section 13 says, during the temporary absence of any officer from the city for any cause, his or her office may be filled temporarily in the manner provided, and that's something we're going to be looking at. But do we need to define absence in this paragraph, or do we wait until we get to that other, the pro tem
I
filling
don't
the
know, I
vacancy pro
think
tem?
now you're talking back to where, in section 12, talking about absences again. So maybe you stated in 12 as opposed to pro 13 or pro 10. Because now you're going back, and Dave brought this, to me, if you're absent three meetings in a row, you shouldn't be around very long.
You should be-
Because now you've lost the whole incentive, especially if you have something on the floor that's going to
Major
need to be
issue.
voted on. And 60 days is way too long, but
Okay, so we're looking at section 12 and changing that, right? I mean, is that the consensus?
Well, the section, I certainly think it's gonna come up, but in 12 specifically, it says absent from the city for a period of 30 days. It defines what absence is.
Mhm.
Down below, it doesn't, I mean, in number
Right.
13, isn't as specific. It just says temporary absence.
well, that just means if you're out of town for 30 days, that's an excuse, right? I had to work, and my job took me out of town for 30 days, so therefore I couldn't be here. So now we're back to excuses? Now you're going to vote on an excuse.
Says without consent of council, whether you
I
know,
actually had that come up, when, Sweet Home Mill closed, and I had to transfer to Springfield. I resigned from school because I could maybe still make meetings, but I'm working out of town and I'm not gonna,
Right.
but I think it's up to individuals to do that. You're not gonna be able to write out a system that's gonna take care of everything.
And I think most people would be okay with that. I mean, if you were doing what was best for the community, I think that would be the right thing to do.
You know, on your 60-day thing, when do you put your foot down? You know, someone could be 59 days these next 2 months. Then they're good for a month or two, and then they go back to 59 days. And then how long do you allow somebody to do that until you say, you know, that's, you can only miss, say, 5 meetings out of the whole year. You know, if they're gonna miss 10, 12, 15 meetings out of a whole year, it's like, well, that person shouldn't have been a council person.
So are you saying that you'd rather, instead of 60 days, you'd rather say something in terms of number of meetings?
Yeah.
I think that it should be numbers like that, yeah, because if you go 60, somebody will just go to the 59 day or whatever, and then, well, I'm safe because I didn't go 60.
Even I know this about basketball. You have to attend so many meetings in order to even get on the court.
Yeah.
So, as in basketball, if you miss so many meetings here, you should have to attend a certain amount per year. Now, then you go back down to the next chapter, which is something different, but, have somebody count up all the meetings through the whole year and then say, well, this is how much you have to attend. I mean, there's some that will miss: Christmas, New Year's, Thanksgiving, those kinds of things. So how many meetings are there really?
24.
24 meetings a year. So
23.
23?
Well, 23, we don't need.
We don't do it on Christmas, yeah.
23.
I want some
I thought
historical.
it was Thanksgiving, didn't do Thanksgiving one too.
I don't think that doesn't necessarily fall on that week. We might. Dave, have you ever had any of these situations where you had somebody that was gone for that amount of time and you had to get them off ever?
No,
Yeah, so I don't like hypotheticals, but if that came around, I'm sure the council will deal with that.
council has their own rules that are pretty well followed. There's more now of a structure of people being talked to or votes taken with absences than there was back in my time. It wasn't the good old days, it hasn't been that many years ago, but there are council rules that they go by. I don't think you really want to put those types of things in your charter.
The only thing is, sometimes it's nice to see it on paper, so people can't say, well, you wasn't on paper, so I could miss it. What are you gonna do? And then, an example too is like, we live in a sue world, then you'd have a council person maybe say, well, I'll sue the city because you're trying to get me off the council because in this 59 days or 60 days, and Susie, or not Susie, but I'm just saying that somebody would say, well, they missed 45 days and they didn't get off. So
we
it's
were
a legal
guessing-
thing, I think
The
it should be.
the other thing you might, since you brought that up, the other thing you might look at is there may be some words that you leave in here or whatever, and then in your ordinance define and say when we redo the charter, say in the charter someplace that, we can interpret it and we can put that in an ordinance. So that your interpretation of what absence here, because you've got 3 or 4 of them and they may actually be different. If you read these things, they are at different times for different purposes, so they may have different meanings for which one you're using.
Right.
And all of that stuff is, like you said, is not going to be in your charter. You could have that in your council rules or in your ordinance, whichever way.
Should be made in council rules.
Well, my point about that whole thing is that if it's never happened in 50 years, why do you think it's gonna happen in the next 20 years?
I think it's happened, but it's been resolved.
Yeah.
By people stepping up, former counselors, and saying, yeah, I'm not gonna be here. And so they've resigned.
Yeah.
And so that's taking care of the situation. They've either moved or lost their job or something's happened in their life that has made them realize that being on council is just not the place they're gonna be at that time, and they resigned, and that's been sometimes with the mayor talking with them and discussing where they are in life.
And that's happened 3 times since I've been on the council. And it was people who moved out of the city, you were here then. And then one that couldn't do it because of his workload, he couldn't do it. And I think most responsible people would say, you know what, I can't do this. I don't have the time to put into it. I would hope. I would do that if I couldn't be here. And
So I don't know if you've researched this particular issue in the other charters, but let's do that for next time. Let's look and see how other cities address this vacancies in general. And then we can talk about it next time. Okay, so next time we have chapter 5, council meetings. And let's do chapter 5 and 6, and I think 6 is gonna give us
yeah, it's a little long.
6 is gonna be a bit much,
Yeah.
so,
Yeah,
we may have to carry that over.
There's only a couple more after that, or one more after that. 2 maybe.
Is there anybody here that didn't read through everything?
I didn't read all of them,
You didn't read them all?
but I did read.
I read all of everything.
Yeah, I read the League of City one, which is interesting. If you don't have one of these, you should read it.
Yeah,
You should get one and read it.
I read that whole thing.
that's why I have them tabbed. So,
Yeah, this one has got so many footnote
Yeah, it does.
things tied to it
Yeah.
that,
Yeah, it does.
that's what we looked at once before.
Right,
Trying to
you
adopt that, you don't know what you're adopting because there's so many,
Yeah,
footnotes.
It's a former version of it, but this one was redone in 2018.
I think one of the things I would like us to think about too is that I would like this to be reader-friendly, legal, but if the public picks it up and reads it, they need to be able to understand it.
That's why I like what we have here now compared to some of the others.
It is a little wordy, and I'm not sure it has to be as wordy as it is, so,
You should have seen the one before this.
well, I'm sure. But we can even do more trimming if we're going to do it at all, so, think about that too, in doing your chapter 5 and 6. Tim, do you have anything else you want to add to this?
Nope, good discussion.
Okay. Anybody else have
On this
anything they
number-
want to add to this? Okay, keep your stick, because I'll take these charts down and then we'll just add to them. Write something on your sticky if you think it needs to be up on the chart that we need to remember. So,
What's the next meeting?
next meeting, that's up to you. We can meet before council next time.
I'm gonna be out of town for 60 days.
Well, I'm not gonna.
You think we're gonna miss you?
No.
We gotta get a
Well, we got
replacement for you.
Thanksgiving.
Yeah, Brianna's
We
not
got some
showing up, not a
Thanksgiving
big
coming up,
deal.
so we have to figure out before that, I'm assuming, or soon after that, and then it's gonna be crazy again, so. I don't care what it is, I'm all right with it.
I got a hospital thing on the 11th, and then we're gonna be gone over Thanksgiving. That's the only thing that,
You're gonna have a deal on Veterans Day?
huh?
You're gonna have something on Veterans Day?
Yeah, I gotta go get worked on.
I'm just.
But, Mr. Chairman, if I could suggest that we're only gonna cover 2 items, but there's only 2 items left after that, chapter-wise, that time permitting, we might get into all of it at the next meeting.
I think chapter 6 is going to take us a while.
You think so?
Yes, I do. Because
Okay.
the council has some serious questions about chapter 6, so. I think
Really?
The discussion may take us a while, and then chapter 7 for sure is going to take us a while, so,
Only to those who want changes.
that's right. Only
Good
if we want
point.
changes, which the council does want changes.
Very good point, Dave.
So 2 weeks from now, what is the date?
No idea.
It would be the 10th,
10th?
the week after the election. If you're doing it on Tuesday.
Cannot be at the 10th meeting.
Is that a council meeting that time too?
Yeah,
Yeah.
so,
That would be.
Bob, will you be out of town that?
Oh, I'll have to check my schedule. I didn't bring my phone.
Oh, okay.
No. I
Well,
was-
let's say the 10th at 5 o'clock.
Yes.
Okay, I can tell you now that I won't be here.
Oh, you won't be here?
No, that's what I say, I gotta be in the hospital on the 11th, so.
Well, I guess you won't be here.
Well, after that would be the 17th, but that's not a
We
council
could do
meeting.
it on the
Is
17th.
the 17th the holiday, is that the veterans? What is?
24th would be that,
11th is better.
24th would be the next day, November 24th.
The 24th is the Tuesday before Thanksgiving.
And that probably won't work.
November's kind of nuts, so
People will be out of town.
shall
Maybe.
we try for the 10th and we'll fill you in, Dave?
Sure, that's fine, I don't have to be here.
Oh, yeah, you do, but
Well, we
but
can
we
talk
understand
about
that
it.
absence. We'll
Yeah.
excuse that absence.
We do have remote options if you'd like to join us remotely.
Yeah, that'll work for him too.
Yeah.
I would prefer to have him here because of the historical part of it for me. So if we could do it another time, I would prefer that. Maybe the next week, I don't know.
You want to try for the 17th?
Well, will you be up to the next week? Would that work for you?
17th of
17th?
December.
Yeah,
No, no,
No,
no.
November.
All right, then let's do the 17th
At 5 o'clock?
at 5 o'clock here.
I will check.
And that's chapter 5
5 and 6?
and 6. Okay. Okay, well, we'll get early, but take your stickies, or I'll collect your stickies, don't worry.
I'm not taking mine.
Take them with you.
You want to grab?